Thank you again for being here. I'm so excited to get a chance to talk to you. And for those watching, please in the comments wish Pragya a happy birthday. She's actually doing this episode on her birthday today, spending some time with us to share her insights on careers, as well as her story, tips, tricks, and advice. So, like always, Pragya, we love hearing a bit about your career journey so far. How did you go from, where you started to where you are today? People learn a lot from hearing these stories that our career professionals have to offer. So, yeah, if you don't mind telling me a bit about your journey so far, that'd be a great way to get started.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, first of all. And also, okay, so I am from India. So I did my graduation back at home in psychology. I did bachelor's in psychology. And then I was thinking about what to do next. Just like how everyone thinks about like what is the next step that we need to take, what will be the best thing for our future, and also for like there are also a lot of expectations from parents and other like teachers and also peer pressure, like you always like somehow end up making a decision in peer pressure, right? So there was a lot of this around, like a lot of talks going around, and then I found one of the organizations who did a foundational course, a foundational uh, introduction about career counseling. I was thinking about clinical child psychology and all of those, but then when they did this, I learned a lot more about career counseling and how it's a growing field. Also, not at home that much, but over here, like outside, it's very growing. It's people find need for the career development practitioners. That's what I learned, and that's where I thought like I'll do a program at GBC because GBC what was best in Ontario at that point of time. So my friend and I, we decided to go together for that.
Cool.
So even if it was peer pressure, but somehow I found friends along the way who I can share this journey with. So I did my GBC program after that. And as soon as I completed it, I did my internship at Humber College. So that thing is also matters a lot, like where you do your internship and how much value you gain out of it. So at Humber College, I really learned a lot about how to deal with students in real time, how to talk to students. And because I was also a student, I understand that demographic a lot. So right now I'm working with students as well. So
Okay.
after doing this thing with Humber College, I was like, okay, so this is the field I really want to be in. I want to be with students and I want to talk to them. At GBC, I also learned about networking. So that's where a lot of students like for us it was a new thing. Networking we never have heard about it because at home you never like talk to people, go out and talk to people that much.
I see.
So over here, we learned about networking and how important it is to meet with people, talk to them, and understand their journey to be able to carve out a path for yourself as well. Right? Learning from your journey might help you out, but it is not same. The things that work for them, it might not work for you, but you will understand what is it that you can take out of it, right? So it's
Absolutely.
very different for everyone. So that's what I learned while being here. So, and that's the main takeaway, and that's what I tell students, like if you are trying to look for something, let's say you are interested in one field, go ahead and do networking, connect with more people who are working in the field. We might career development practitioners might not know that much, but those people who are working in the field, they are professionals, right?
Yes.
So they will have more understanding, they are the subject matter expert about it. So go ahead and talk to them, make your own connections. And that's what really helps in the long run. I still remember that till now, I have a lot of connections from this field. And these people really help me out whenever I am in doubt or I have any doubts about like what to do next or if I'm doing something right or wrong. I really go to my alumni and my seniors and talk to them about all of this. So sharing your story and also learning from them is what I feel really helps out when you are on your own path.
Yes, I definitely think that makes sense. And sorry to cut you off. I just agree.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I think like this is what my story overall is like. It's still going, it's still in the process because we are still learning about all of this right now. I'm working majorly with IT students and all of those, but it but it is totally dependent on the student needs, like what do they need. And being an international student, and also right now I'm helping with the international students, so I feel they have a lot of restrictions, right? Like the PR, the permits, and what to do. A lot of, they will vary, like what they think and what they do is very different. There will be one part who will be who will be like, oh, I want to do something in this field. But there is one part who comes here with dreams, which are totally different. For them, they are like, we want to stay here, we want to do all of this, but we don't know how to do it because it's a new environment for them, right? So right now I'm helping them out with trying to help them out with finding their own dreams, like a work where they feel like they are, that they feel fulfilled for. Like when they do that work, they feel, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is not very hectic, and I can lead my life if I'm working in this.
Ah, that's really well, thank you for sharing your background, Pragya. It's always interesting to hear, where your experience comes from. And I can tell why international students would be excited to work with you because you yourself have gone through that process, and dealt with some of those challenges. So, one of the first ones you mentioned that I'd like to ask you some questions about is around the networking.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting that you said, that's not something that might have been common for you back home. And here it's, really important to do. And maybe it takes place in a different way based on where you live and where you're coming from. But I definitely agree. Um, Getting out there, telling your story, talking to people is so important. But I'm wondering if you have any advice on what to say, when you meet someone new. I think a lot of people aren't sure what to say. Should they just say their name and what their,
Mhm.
dream is, or what kind of job they're looking for, or should they ask questions? There's a lot of confusion around it. So how do you approach networking? How did you go about meeting people?
So it's very difficult because as you are new and you are sometimes desperate and in need to get
Yeah,
something out of it, to feel like, okay, I feel there are students who are like, should I just go ahead and ask them for a job or should I just go ahead and ask them for an internship? Which I feel networking should still be like a bond where you invest time and then you make sure that your bond and everything is like turning out to be what you want, a long term relationship instead of a short term temporary thing you want out of it, right? So for networking, I really feel first start with small steps, like the small steps we take when we build relationship with our friends the first time, like the strangers we meet and then we are friends with them. So you don't just go ahead and talk to them about everything. You take small steps and try to understand their situation and then go ahead with your situation. So it's a very symbiotic relationship, I would say, but you have to go ahead and invest time. So when you do networking, I really feel not just with your name, but talk to them in the sense where you want to understand about them and understand what they are going through, their situation, right? So let's say if there's a position you are interested in or anything, go ahead and talk to them about like what, how did they reach out to that position, what did they do that was different, or what were their steps, what are they feeling right now, how are they understanding that position, like do informational interviews. So if I feel if you're networking with someone, do informational interviews with them. So having that 10 to 15-minute coffee chats or those kind of interviews where you can ask them questions how they are doing things will really help them out. Right now I feel there are a lot of people who would love to share their journey, right? So if you can go ahead and connect with people who are in your field where you're interested in, and you are patient enough to understand their journey, later on they will also see the potential in you, and meeting someone face to face instead of text would really do wonders.
absolutely. I think that's a great point. And it's true, it's nerve-wracking, but you do end up meeting some really interesting people. And I'm so glad you said, it's not about just showing up at an event and asking people, hey, do you have jobs? Because
Mhm.
these are other people, right? And they don't know you yet and they don't know your story and you haven't built a relationship or any rapport. So I do think that that's, you know, something that can happen naturally if you do what you said and get to know each other because what might end up happening then, from what I've seen, is they may go, hey, now that they've gotten to know you and, oh, you're interested in IT, by the way, I know someone who has a job that would you be interested? And suddenly it becomes a lot easier. Um,
Yes.
So I definitely agree with that.
And
And
it's just that I've also, like, sorry to cut you off, I've
oh,
also seen examples of people getting jobs or internships through networking. It's not like, okay, we are just saying it. It's for the sake that, okay, we have seen it's tried and tested. We have seen we that students get results out of it. Okay. So if you really put in time, if you really talk to them and you can understand what are their needs or what is it that they are doing, I think it will really help you out in long term. Not just you get opportunities, even if you don't get opportunities, don't just hang there for those, but you get to meet really good people, people who can teach you things of, like, from their journey, or they can tell you what are you doing wrong in your own journey. So good mentors, I would say, you can also get out of networking.
that's a great reminder, Pragya. Thanks for mentioning that as well. And I really like what you said about the coffee chats too. I know that's something that people are starting to become more aware of, that, hey, this is a good way to learn and meet good people. Um, to go even deeper, do you have any advice on what to say? You know, if you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, what I know it's like you said before, we can't just do what someone else did. Everyone needs to find their own way and what works for them. But do you have any examples of, what you would have typed in a message to someone new to ask them to have a coffee chat? Because I
Yes.
think some people are confused about that.
Yes. So a lot of times, there's I've seen, like, they just go in and they don't mention anything that sounds like, okay, it's relatable, right? If I go in, when I used to go in beforehand and I saw, okay, there is this GBC student who did the same program that I am doing right now, I would go in and mention that, like, this, I would go to their profile, look through their profile, see what's the match, what I'm interested in, what I want to learn out of all of this that they have done, right? And in that chat, in that message that I would send, it would be that one thing, like, I am also a GBC student doing this program, and I
Uh,
would really love to hear your advice on these things, right? I'm interested in learning about your experience at GBC while doing this program or anything. So something relatable. So something, if you're interested in something, if you find something is relatable or you want to learn about something specific, I would say go deep dive in their profile, see what is it that they have done, their experiences, their education, anything, or even their posts. I think I even go right now, like, even today, I go to a lot of people for advice, right? So
right.
and I still feel that I need to make good connections, I need to make more connections in this industry. So I see, okay, what is it that they are doing right now and what I'm interested. If they are doing some certification and I want to do it, I'll go ahead and say, like, I know that I have seen from your profile that you are doing this certification. Do you have any advice about it? Would you like to have a chat about it? And not just like me going, I've received a lot of messages from students as well who want to know from my own journey. So in those messages, I see how different students have different writing styles, right?
Yes.
So it's not like one thing worked for them, it the same message might not work for other, right? And in desperate times they need, like, someone to respond to them very, like, fast, right? So students and for everyone who is going through all of this process of building their own connection, the only advice from me is that take your time, be patient with it, because you never know, these people, like, on the other hand side, might be busy as well. They might not be that active on LinkedIn, but they might be very open to be your mentor or share their experience with you. Not mentor for the first go, but maybe for the second and third time when they know you a little bit more.
That is super helpful and practical. These are things that, for those listening who are international students, newcomers, or just, early in your career and you're someone who's trying to build a network. I
Yes.
really agree with Pragya here. Patience is key. And being deliberate is so key as well. I really agree with you, Pragya, that, read people's profile. Find something specific you're interested in connecting on. I think that's the case too. I get a lot of messages like that, Pragya, that are, not thought through. It's just, hi, we should connect. And there's
Yes.
no explanation. And so I'm like, I don't know why that person wants to connect. But every now and then someone will say, hey, I noticed you did this, or I watched the podcast and I'd love to ask you a question. And suddenly it's a lot easier. So I know that works firsthand.
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Uh,
Yes, if there's, I feel like if there's a value to the message, it does attract attention from the person.
yeah, 100%. Now, once you've kind of built that network, right? And I think that's an ongoing thing. It doesn't really end.
Yes.
But let's say that an opportunity has come up. You've gotten to know someone, and maybe it's not them that offers you a job, but they tell you, hey, I know you're interested in IT. I have a friend that has a job opening. You should send them a resume, or send me your resume and I'll send it to them.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of wanted to get your advice on what to do when it comes to resumes. And since you're kind of working with international students now, um, is that the focus for you, is primarily international students, or are there other domestic students that you
There
work
are
with too?
others. There are others as well. So
Okay.
international students, yes. So and there are others as well. So at Humber, I work with students who are domestic and international as well, alumni, anyone who needs our
Okay.
help as a career coach. But in my full-time job in morning, I work with only international students, specifically that demographic.
Okay, so let's consider this for all students in general, then this next question. Um, are you noticing things that students might be doing on their resume that um, we can help them avoid? Are there any common mistakes that you
Mhm.
see students make on a resume? If they get an opportunity like that to submit a resume, um, anything we can try to let them know, hey, this might be something you want to change?
Yes, a lot of times I see templates being used.
Ah,
The general and the main one that I see a lot of times, like students will talk among students, like the peers will be talking, and they will be like, okay, it worked for me, it can work for you, but it was a template, right? You don't know what worked for them, like how things worked for them and where they have applied, how, or like to what process they went through. But students will be like, oh, I've seen this template, my friend, it worked for him, it worked for them, so why cannot it work for me? Right, so they would use those same things, and sometimes they will like copy certain skills to get through all of this. But I really see that students, a lot of students don't know about ATS.
right.
It is like, the template is there, yes, it's one of the problems, but ATS is one of the things that you need to keep in mind about how to make your resume more ATS friendly, how to include those keywords, the columns that you have in your templates. It's really sabotaging your chances, your opportunities to get a good position, to be able to get something that you really deserve, and you are not getting it because you are not making your resume ATS friendly, right? So this is what I'm seeing a lot these days. Like there will be resumes that are where the templates have been like taken from Google or anywhere else. It will not match. It doesn't go. It has leaves, colors, and all of those things, which
Uh,
is like so shocking. I'm like, because I would say in general, a lot of students, since they don't know about ATS, they don't know how the automation works. They wouldn't they wouldn't focus on the resume that much. It's so I feel like that's where we come in, that's where it's our job to let them know that this is one thing, this is how employers are going to like check your resume, and they are not doing it, ATS is doing it, and then your resume goes to them. So you need to make sure that you are customizing your resume and tailoring everything on your resume according to the job posting.
that is super helpful. And for those watching this, if you don't know what ATS is, that's the applicant tracking software that employers use when hundreds or thousands of people are applying to them for jobs. It's a tool that they can use to figure out who's a good match. So, really, really helpful advice from Pragya here on how to make sure you do get identified as a candidate that should be interviewed. And with that in mind, Pragya, do you have tips on how to make your resume ATS friendly, like you said? Is it things like not having pictures and things like that? That's really interesting. I actually haven't learned too much about that before.
Yes, so not having pictures, not having anything graphic over there. I feel resume should be something that is easy to read for the employer. Even if they're not using ATS, it should be, if they're scanning for the words, right? And it's just 6, 7 seconds. If they're scanning for the words in your resume, it should be quick. Like in just 7 seconds, make sure that your resume has all these words and it goes through to the employer, right? So ATS does that. like it will make sure that your resume is very friendly, it is matching the requirements of the employer. So one thing that I really talk about is having those keywords in your resume, and not just like words copy paste, but words in statement where it shows your achievements. So having your resume achievement based where you are putting numbers, and having your resume with a lot of words that are mentioned in the job posting. So when I first did this, when I first learned how to do resumes properly in my program, the CDB one, I had this assignment where we were supposed to select job postings and make resumes based on that.
Ah,
Doesn't matter which position. So you just have to make your resume. So I went through that resume. I highlighted all the important keywords, the skills that the job posting was looking for, the experience, the technical skills. It can be as small as Microsoft Word. Like those words are also important. So I was highlighting all of those and making sure that I'm making statements about it in my resume. And also there is this one thing which is coming up a lot, which is chat GPT and AI, which is like the new thing in our field, right? So
yes.
now I have learned how to use it, so that I can also tell students that this is not for you to like cheat, and not for you to just use it like this as it is, but it is, take it as added support. Like ChatGPT AI is your added support, not for you to just copy paste things from here. It's very different when you see things on ChatGPT, and how you use it, you apply it, it's very different. You see, okay, it will use very different language, and the employer and everyone is very smart now. They
Yes.
know about it. So they, since they're aware, they will read your resume and they will know automatically that this is not the person has made, this is chat gpt or AI based resume. So I feel even if you're using these kind of things, even if you're using these kind of softwares, make sure that you are putting your own spin to it.
Yes. That's a really good warning because it's a useful tool, but it's
Yes.
pretty easy to tell if you copy and paste from it,
Yes.
because everyone is aware of it now. So that's a very helpful reminder. And I'm wondering if you are seeing more and more students starting to, put together portfolios and things like that, examples of their work, because resumes are so important, like you're saying. And I know students are always looking for a way to stand out. So I actually heard about one tech student recently who did an example project and they tried to make it easy for the employer to see that project if they came across their resume. Are you seeing anything like that become part of what helps students be successful, like examples of their work ahead of time, or is that
I
not
feel
necessary?
portfolio is very like for selective
Uh,
programs, for selective fields. Like I understand tech is where you can show your projects. You can, if you are a website developer, you can show like these are the websites you have created. If you are in some art related field, that's where you can show that this is what you have designed, graphic designers and all of those, right?
right.
Where I have seen a lot of portfolios. But if it's like business development, if it's global business management, that's where I cannot see portfolios becoming a part in future,
Gotcha.
because you don't make those projects, right? But in these kind of fields where you can show these projects, it's where I feel it's where the employers can make a good decision about the skills of the student. Like if you see a portfolio, you will see a lot of time that students have invested time in making those projects by themselves. Even if it's not a part of their class projects, they will do it on their side, so they can like stand out to the employers.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I do think there is confusion around what counts as experience. And
Mhm.
some students don't know that they can talk about things they've done outside of class. So
Yeah.
yeah, is that something you talk about with students that, hey, there are other things if they don't have work experience, how do you, fill out a document like that?
So I feel like I know it's lab hours and all of those where you can really like show experience, right? So for students, I feel it's what you do on the side also counts. I know, and even the employer knows, if you just graduated, it's normal for you to not have so much experience.
Right.
But to showcase it through your projects is where it shows that you have invested time and you are putting in time to learn and take initiative, right? So that makes an impact. I have seen a lot of like employers who are like, okay, if the student hasn't done like, they don't have experience, but do they have certifications, have they done any projects? So, or the lab hours, all of this will count if you can showcase it properly on your resume, like put numbers, achievement based, all of this, that it's very normal and that we feel like it's very basic. Students usually miss out on those details and make the mistake.
That's a really helpful reminder as well. And you reminded me something with certificates and things like that. Um, there are more and more of these certificates becoming available through platforms like LinkedIn and Google.
Yes.
And are those valuable uh, credentials to collect as well?
I feel it totally depends on the employers as well. Like, what are their perspective? Every employer, every like, they will have different perspective on certifications. I've seen one employer who will be like very open to certificates. They'll be like, okay, if the student doesn't have the main ones, but they have taken something or they have learned about these certificates, or they have invested time in doing the certificates from LinkedIn, that works for me. But
Uh,
they will be another employer on the other hand side who will be like, the certificates are not very important and I need the experience, right? So it totally depends on the demographic as well, like what employer wants what, right? But I feel certificates really do add something to the resume. I feel if it's not just LinkedIn, Coursera, there LinkedIn and Google, there's Coursera and other like certification like platforms who have certificates that are associated with different universities.
True, like edX is what
Yes.
I'm thinking
Yes,
of.
Coursera has a lot of it from like different universities. So I would say that when I was back at home, back in India, and I was applying for my college and everything, like university level education from here, like for Canada, I was doing a lot of these certifications. I was investing a lot of time in doing all of this because that added a value. And when I talk about my certifications, when I talk about things in interview, I usually include those certifications. If it's related, then yes.
Okay, that is really helpful. And we'll put a link in the description of this video to Coursera and LinkedIn Learning, as well as some of the Google certificates so that you can check them out. But like Pragya said, you have to make sure that they are relevant to the job you're applying for. So that's a good reminder, Pragya. And we're pretty much at the end of the time I know I asked you for today, and I don't want to keep you long because you're already spending some of your birthday with us here. So happy birthday again. Thank you so much for your insights, advice, and for sharing your story. Do you have any, final kind of words of wisdom or advice for students, at any level, to
Yes.
guide them along their career journey?
Yes, being on the conversation we have till now, I would say patience is one of the key that you need to follow, and being like up to the mark with the industry trends that are going around. So it's very important to stay up to date and also being patient with the connections that you are making in the field. That's I feel like that really helped me out during my journey. So it will be helpful for all the students, no matter if they're domestic or international or anywhere else.
Thank you, Pragya. That's so true. I do think, and that's almost with all things, right? If you can be patient, then really good things can happen, and that it's important not to get discouraged. I'm grateful you mentioned that. So
Thank
yeah, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope we can have you back on in the future. I feel like we have so many more questions to ask you, but the time goes quick. So thank you again for being with us today, and hopefully we see you soon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Imran. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a happy rest of your birthday.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.